Hi, I'm Ken Pfalzgraf, the artist formerly known as Ken Pfalzgraf, candidate for the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District School Board in that election like a couple weeks ago or whenever it was. You remember, right? So you remember in my last video, I told you that that would be my last video, my last campaign video, but I'm kind of like a politician now, so I can lie, right? Today's topic is election update. Let's start with who won. So I guess I kind of feel like a yo-yo because it's up and down, it's everywhere, and oh, I know right now people are like, hey Pfalzgraf, you're pretty good with that yo-yo. Of course I am. I had to do something when my third grade teacher took away my nunchucks. It's so confusing. The morning after the election, the Beverly Hills newspaper, city arborist Ken Pfalzgraf wins the election. AV Press, 8 votes separate leaders in school district special election. AAD, USD, election too close to call. Pfalzgraf slips ahead in Acton Agua Dulce race. Hey look, it's me right there. Oh! Okay, so today about 4 o'clock, there's going to be another vote update. I'm going to be up one, down one, who knows what, up, down, yo-yo. And it's going to be like that till December 2nd when the final votes are counted. But guys, this was not about a popularity contest. This wasn't about hanging your sign up on a dirt road or passing out buttons at the football game. Yay! Yeah, this election was about issues that affect our school district, its students, and taxpayers. So while the hoopla was going in the newspaper about the yo-yo game, I was still on point. In the Beverly Hills newspaper, I had this to say. I based my campaign on improved transparency in the area of public access to district business and improved charter school authorization and oversight. Along those lines, if I am seated, I will put my focus to transparency in the district transmittal of its business through best practice staff reporting. Remember 54 that you voted on this election where people in your legislature are required to put things on the internet for the public to see 72 hours before we vote? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I was still talking about right after the election in the AV Press when I said I would like to have staff reports that have an agenda title, an opening summary, background discussion, fiscal impact, and staff recommendations for all agenda items placed on the internet for public review 72 hours prior to the regularly scheduled meetings. And then, about this charter school thing, believe it people, there is a state auditor coming in. We are one of 3 districts in the whole state that's been targeted. This is not a typical audit. This is, we're coming in to look at your charter authorization and oversight practices. I'm out ahead of this saying, hey, Superintendent and Chief Financial Officer, would you please provide the board and public with an overview of the district's position on each of the 8 points of the state auditor's scope of review for an upcoming audit of the district's charter authorization and oversight practices, which was authorized by the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. So I'm on track. Well, I got you here today. We're going to talk about a couple other things. Charter choice and my favorite, Lulu's Special Education Spotlight. So again, if I'm going to sit on the school board, I'm going to stay engaged. And this charter business is a big deal, especially charter choice, because it's being said that this is about choice. This is not about money. This is about choice. So I go to charter, one of our charter schools, charter management organization board meetings. So what you've got is, instead of having a school district, you've got 3 or 4 schools bunched together. The funding sources and sponsors and authorizers are different people. So these people all come together and they're talking about their issues like a normal board meeting. So I'm sitting out there and I want to have a flavor of and a feel for what's going on because it affects us, you, the local taxpayer here, and the local students here. And so what I hear is there's a concern from one of the board members that enrollment is falling off in a couple of the charter schools and they want to know what they can do to bring the enrollment up. And it's announced right in the meeting that the sponsor or the people who are authorizing the district, where these schools are actually located, are very resistant to local students going to the charter. And so nobody wants these people to advertise for new students, and you can't have that. Well, wait a minute here. What was all this about choice for local students and alternative choice? And so what we've got here is we've got an auditor coming in to look at exactly this type of thing, and our own charter school boards are announcing to the public that the charter authorizer or whoever's running the school is doing everything they can to stop local students from going to that school for fear that we're going to that they're going to lose students and funding that go with it. What is that? So we're opening up charter schools everywhere else and reaping that money, but when it comes to offering our own local students choice, we can't do that. That number one, it undermines choice in education. Number two, it corrupts the lottery system. And number three, and most importantly, charter schools were developed to ultimately take on a representation of the local demographic. So if you're keeping the local students out of the charter schools to protect your own public school enrollment, how on earth is your charter ever going to reach that goal? So these are the kinds of things when I get on the board, or even if I don't, I'll be out in the audience making noise about it. So now let's move on to Lulu's Special Education Spotlight. So this all started with an editorial about the campaign in one of the newspapers and what the focuses were. And this person, Lulu McDonald's, or something like that, took exception to my concerns about how special education is running and about the charter school. So it was more like, as long as we got the money coming in, it's cool. And to be precise here, this Lulu McDonald said, it's a hard fact, but the reality is the number of special needs children is very small in relation to the other students. How can a district this size be asked to give 210% to a minority of students? Those are the facts. If you don't like it, go to a larger school district with resources. And by the way, charter schools are not the solution for special needs children. They get far less money from the state for education, let alone special education. Wait a minute, what is this Lulu McDonald's? Are you actually saying that the special ed kids in our district and any kid that wants to go to one of our charter schools that has special needs, you're going to put them on this bus and ship them off somewhere, who knows where? But wait a minute, that sounds familiar to me. Where are we, Lulu? 1940s Europe? All right, I'm back from wardrobe. Hey, they did a great job, didn't they? Anyway, let's take a closer look at Lulu's 210% math. When we're talking about the cost of special education programs, most people don't know this, but we're not just talking about the cost of the room and the teacher and the aides and the program and the service to the children, but we're talking about a lot of attorney fees that are running in the background that are billed off to the special education budget that most people don't know about because they're discussed in closed session and there are lawyers involved and that type of thing. So basically the way this works is if there's a problem between what the parents feel the services are supposed to be being offered and what the school district is offering, and we can't come to some compromise internally, the parents file a due process case with the Department of Justice, which goes to the Office of Administrative Hearings here. And there's a mediation process that takes place, and a hearing officer looks it over and resolves it. Now, you'll see that as we look here, I've got these cases color-coded. These are all cases right now that against Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District, and they're current, November, December, there's another December. But anyway, there are 3 cases open right now. This case ends with 955. This case ends with 241. There's another reference to 241. Again, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District. And then we go here to 967. 967, there are 4 references there. And so what's happening here is these cases go to due process. There are attorneys there representing the district. There are attorneys there representing the parents, and there's some conclusion made. And if it goes to finding, what happens is the hearing officer says the district did this or the parents did this or whatever and has a finding. But most of the time, these cases are mediated. And if they're mediated, no one ever finds out what the case was all about. The only way you know that these actually have happened at all is in the warrant register for the school board meeting 3 or 4 months after this happens. You'll see payments to Fagan, Fulfast, and Freeman in the amounts of thousands of dollars, and then maybe another attorney firm, which is the one that represents the parents, and then if there's any settlement that goes with that for paying the attorney fees and some settlement or extra services. But you never find these. And I'm sorry, Lulu, but this is what runs up the special education expenditures in this district, because even, like I said, right now, there are 3 cases. And one of them, right here, this is related to one of the district's own charter schools. So this idea that we had, remember in my last video about fact check, where the school board president stood up in the candidate forum and said, we're protected by MOUs that isolate our own home district from this problem. Well, here it is right here. They're going to hearing at least twice about a case that's related to one of our own charters. So your tax dollars are being spent hiring attorneys to defend one of our own charters. Why? Because our own district is offering the special education services in this case. So people argue, well, you know what, this is not the district's fault. No one's saying it's the district's fault or that it's the parent's fault. The hearing officer ultimately finds out. But when you have case after case in the Department of Justice, Office of Administrative Hearings, something is not going right. So how do these things start? Where do they start? Well, I'll give you an example. For example, this is an IEP that I'm intimately familiar with, and it's an offer of FAPE, free appropriate public education, and the services that go to a special education student. We follow over here and we see there's adapted physical education, the district of service, that's the home district. It says that the individual be treated as an individual or in a group setting, that the effective dates are 5/6/2016 to 5/6/2017, and that they will receive adapted physical education. Elementary kids receive special or physical education, and so special needs child have adapted physical education. Sorry, Lulu, but they deserve it too. At the end of the day, this child is supposed to get 30 minutes once a week, so we get 30 minutes weekly. But guess what? Since the beginning of the school year, the district has not offered these services because they don't have an adapted physical education staff member hired. So instead of going out and contracting one and being compliant with this, which is a legal document under federal law, we just don't do anything and offer services. So what ends up happening is I, as a parent, are going to have to fill out a request for compliance investigation. There's the compliance. There's no compliance. It's not being offered. And so we end up filing this complaint. It's who, what, where, and as a board member, I can't get involved in this stuff, but as a parent, if it's my child, I'm going to get involved. So I don't want to hear that there's 210% higher fees for special education than normal kids, because it's fairly obvious. I've just given you an example of 3 months of non-compliance, and there's going to be excuses. Well, we couldn't hire somebody, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. You can contract someone in. You take a look at the amount of salary and compensation you're paying, and you take care of business. But you don't let this go and take away services that the student, by federal law and by which you have agreed to provide, are not providing, and then let it slip under the rug, and then later on have somebody puppet an editorial in a newspaper for you and say, oh, okay, well, this is why it's so high. The reason special education fees are so high in this district is because there's a lot of attorney work going on in the background. Oh, and before I forget, I really got to thank some people. Tommy Lee, Marky Mark, and the Funky Bunch. You came out in a big way. I don't really think you really know how many votes you really got me. I really got to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I mean the very bottom of my heart. So that's my program for today. I'm still on the same issues. you get a taste of what the questions I'm going to be asking. So I'm kind of just back to the yo-yo game here, waiting for 4 o'clock to come or 5 to see how many votes I got or didn't get or what's going to happen until December 2nd. Well, it's a little after 5 on the 18th of November. There's just been an update, and guess what? We're all tied up at 1,611 votes each. Can you believe it? It's looking more and more like this is going to turn into a coin toss game on December 2nd. So I better start practicing my coin toss skills. Bingo! There it is. I'm ready with the coin toss game. Looks like it's back to the yo-yo till December 2nd. See you then.